Yo, 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 what's going on, people? It's your boy Daryl from the Boxing Lowdown here, and this is episode number 41 of the TBL podcast. And as always, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Mr. Controversial, my father, the main man in the building, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. What's going on, man?
See that left hook to the body, come over the top to the head. That's what Brian Castano used very effectively at the weekend, man. Used to be one of my favorite shots in boxing, actually, because as I'm left-handed, it came kind of natural to me. But yeah, I love seeing that combination. And Castano delivered it to perfection at times last weekend, which I'm sure we'll talk about in due course. But yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. It's nice and warm here at the AFTV studios. And yeah, man, rearing to go.
Yeah, man, we're definitely going to talk about that fight. Amongst other things, we've got a packed show for you guys today. Before I get started, let me just say, as always, big up to everybody that will enter the chat or not. We're live streaming this on YouTube and Twitter. So for those of you that join, you know what to do. Hit the like button, first of all. Most importantly, hit that like button. Share the video. Get the video out, man. Let's get the views that these podcasts deserve. And for those of you in the chat, feel free to jump on, put in your comments, let us know how you feel. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. And yeah, that's how we do it, man. So big up everybody first of all. Let's get started. The comments are going off already. Big up my brother Harvey in the chat as always. You know what I mean? Here, every show, big up Harvey every single time. He's put, hey, hope you're both good. Ready for an exciting show. You know how we do, Harvey, man. Good to have you here as always. Francisco in the building as well. He's put, break it down, brothers. You know we will, man. You know we will, Francisco. Good to have you here, bro. And shout out to everybody that joins later on. But yeah, man, a packed show today. Where do we start? Let's start off with the fight last weekend. You know, you were just talking about it just there. Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano for the undisputed light middleweight championship of the world, ending in a draw, a controversial draw, according to some people, man, particularly due to one of the scorecards. I don't know, again, we shouldn't really be surprised about this, but one of the scorecards was just horrendously wrong. 117, 111 for Jermell Charlo. Whether you thought he won the fight or not, that scorecard was horrendous. A lot of people that I spoke to seem to believe Brian Castano did enough to win. I thought that Brian Castano did enough to win. It was a very entertaining fight, a candidate for fight of the year. Both men were hurt, both men were rocked, but for me, I thought Brian Castano did enough, but Laurie, you think otherwise?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I just want to say the one thing everyone will be unanimous about, it was a great fight and a very hotly contested fight, which I predicted on your show that it would be. So I was pleased about that. In terms of the fight, hey, man, I'm not mad at the draw. I'm not mad at the draw at all. In fact, the more I think about it, I think a draw is probably the best solution. I mean, personally, I scored the fight as I was going along. I watched it live. And when I tallied my scorecard at the end of the fight, before they read the official fight announcement, I had Charlo 2 rounds up. And that was due to his very strong finish. And I have to say that I thought a lot of the rounds were close and hard to score, man. I mean, there were rounds there that I was like wavering. Should I go with Charlo? Should I go with Castano? And so that may have explained why I made Charlo a winner, a very slight winner, but I wouldn't have argued had it have gone Castano's way, and I'm certainly not arguing with a draw. So the next day, when the fallouts of the fight started to occur and people saying, robbery, I said, come on, man, that's not a robbery. I think robbery in boxing, I'm not sure if you would agree with me, maybe some of the guys out there that watch the show and some of the contributors would have their opinion, but I think robbery is one of the most overused words in boxing at the moment, man. This was not a robbery. A robbery is when we all watch a fight and then 99.9 or a big percentage of us come down heavily in favor of one man winning. This was not like that, man. There was a lot of swing rounds, a lot of close action. I mean, Castano, to his credit, he did something there that I used to see some of the old timers do, including Sugar Ray Leonard, which is in a close round that you may not have been winning, you suddenly do a little flurry at the end of the round, you know what I mean? And that kind of stays with in certain people's subconscious, and they think, yeah, because he finished strongly in that round, I'm going to give it to Castano. But I never watched the fight back. I watched it the one time. I watched it live. I scored as the fight went on. I tell him I scored card at the end, and I had it 115, 113, Jermell Charlo. And I know some people are gonna have an issue with that, but hey, man, bring it on. I thought it was a very close fight. I edged it for Charlo, but I wouldn't. If it had gone 115, 113 to Castano, I wouldn't be sitting here screaming robbery. And with the draw, I ain't mad at that. In fact, I'll take that, and I'm sure Charlo would as well.
What I will say is that I agree with you on your point about the robbery. That word is getting thrown around too much nowadays. But what I will say is because of that scorecard, it's automatically put a bad taste in people's mouths. So when they see that scorecard and they thought that Castano won as well, suddenly the fact of it being a close fight goes out the window, and it's like the robbery was in, because you've got one judge that was, scored that 117, 111. Don't know where he got that from. And because of that, the fight was a draw. So even though it was a close fight, you're going to have people saying, oh, it's a robbery. Look what they tried to do. And I have to say, man, I thought Castano outworked Charlo. I did. I thought that he outworked him. And I thought that, a lot of people didn't really understand how good Castano was. I mean, he defeated Errol Spence in the amateurs. We spoke about that. He's a very solid fighter, man. And I think that some people just believe that this was a coming out party for Jermell Charlo to become undisputed. And it didn't turn out that way. So do you think that maybe some of those close rounds, people were thinking, oh, Castano's doing better than I thought here. Let me give him that round. And then all of a sudden, are we looking at it that way? I need to watch the fight again. But for me, when I watched it, I did think that Castano did enough to win. In my opinion, yeah, I did.
Again, if that's how you feel, you honestly feel that way, I've got no problem with that at all. But you know what? Earlier on, you made an excellent point there, which is that some people who was expecting Jermell Charlo to win and win comfortably, and let's face it, there would have been a lot of people like that who automatically thought that Jermell Charlo is the favorite and he's going to win. When they saw how good a fight Castano was putting up, maybe that kind of subconsciously changed their perception. But I wasn't that surprised because I knew how good he was. I knew he was an excellent amateur. I said on your show last week, he'd beaten Errol Spence as an amateur and apparently beaten quite comfortably as well. He'd also beaten Sergey Deryevchenko, and he got a record of about 181 wins and 10 losses or something like that. So he's an excellent amateur. Even in his professional career, he fought Erislandy Lara, who's a top-class fighter, and that fight was very close. That was a draw as well. And a lot of people in that fight said that they thought Castano won. So this was going to be no walk in the park for Jermell Charlo. And I honestly think that a lot of them people who were screaming, oh, robbery, robbery, that's because they were looking at maybe Jermell Charlo dominating. And when it didn't happen that way, they started to go in another direction and say, yeah, Castano won all the rounds. And I just would make a point there on the 117, 111, is it? I'm trying to, obviously I don't agree with that score assessment, but I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm trying to give that particular judge, I can't remember his name now, the benefit of the doubt here is that, and this is something that I've said before, is that sometimes just because a fight is close doesn't mean that the scorecards can't be relatively wide, if you know what I mean. So in other words, if we watch 12 rounds of boxing, okay, and fighter A wins, say 9 rounds and fighter B wins 3 rounds, it doesn't mean to say that the fighter A who won 9-3 didn't struggle in some of them rounds, or some of the rounds weren't close. Maybe a lot of them were close, but if you're looking to find a winner and you don't score any even rounds and stuff like that, you might lean towards the guy who you feel is doing the better work. And by virtue of that, you adjudge him to be the winner of the rounds, and it piles up. And then at the end, you look at your scorecard and you think, rah, that wasn't a 117, 111 fight or a 116, 1112. That was very close. But I've got this guy comfortably ahead of the other guy. How does that work? And that's because there's a 10-point must system. I mean, I've heard some people saying that the 10th round, in which Charlo clearly dominated virtually from start to finish, with Castano was like getting his head bounced from pillar to post. Some people have suggested to me, and there is an argument for saying that should have been a 10-8 round. So,
not for me. I can't let you justify that card, man. I can't let you justify 117, 111.
No. Slow down. I'm not justifying it. I'm saying how it might have arisen. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like I said, if it's a close fight and you're the kind of judge that likes to score in favor of one or the other, in other words, you don't like to give even rounds, but you think that that guy's done enough to win that round, then it may happen that way. But I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that's how it may have arisen. Obviously, we don't know.
Yeah. Big up DS in the chat here. He's put, good evening, gents. Good evening to you as well, brother. Good to have you here. He's put here, I had Castano winning by 2 rounds, but this wasn't a robbery. The 117, 111 scorecard is what had people steaming. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. That scorecard there, I just don't know. It's a subjective sport. You know, people are subjective in how they score their fights, man. Like, there's no clear, you know, whatever it is in terms of like scoring. Some people prefer fighters that come forward. Some people prefer fighters that are on the back foot and make you miss. There's no actual like. It's open to interpretation as to how judges score fights. And this is an example. One judge had Charlo well up. The other judge had Castano winning. And, you know, that's just how it kind of goes, man. It's unfortunate. And a rematch has been discussed. However, I've just seen that the IBF have made their mandatory, I'm not even going to pronounce his name, but they've ordered Jermell Charlo to fight him next. So it doesn't look like that the Brian Castano rematch immediately will happen. And maybe with Undisputed, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to work a way around it. But even after the fight, Jermell Charlo wasn't really up for that rematch for me, man. It didn't sound like he was too. He's talking about he needs a break and all of this. And listen, fair enough. I'm not a professional boxer, so I don't know what he's going through. But to me, it seemed like Castano wanted it more, and just the reaction online from other fighters and, you know, people elsewhere seem to believe Castano did enough as well.
Yeah, I mean, the majority consensus seems to be that Castano did enough to win. And like I said, we don't know how much of that is because of the surprise factor. I think as well as that, there's definitely an element of people who are not particularly fond of Jermell Charlo. I mean, it was noticeable that people like Terence Crawford came straight out, said, yeah, you lost. And, you know what I mean? There was a little bit of hating going on there.
Just justified. Them two have been going back and forth for quite a while now.
Sometimes you can't read too much into these guys that are quick to come out and Twitter and say, yeah, you lost, whether they be trainers, fighters, or whoever, because it doesn't often take you long to work out that they've got a vested interest in what they say. So a lot of the times I don't take too much attention to that. I have to say, though, most people did think that Castano won the fight. So listen, man, I'm in a minority and I'm happy to be in that minority. I'm going to stand by what I said. I watched it live and I scored it. And people who watch this show, and you, Darryl, will know that I'm not a fan of Jermell Charlo, the person. So it's not like you can accuse me of being biased. I was just scoring it the way I saw it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I had 2 rounds up. But like I said, it could have gone either way. And you're right also about Charlo's energy regarding the rematch. Now, if you contrast his energy after the Castano fight with the energy that he displayed when he lost to Tony Harrison, it's 2 completely different energies on display. And that was interesting to behold. But yeah, man, they need to do it again. The IBF will be an issue, though, because as we've spoken about on the show many times before, the IBF, and this is to their credit in a way, I'm not going to diss them for that. They don't like rematches, man. You know what I mean? They like the next person in line gets their shot. And I must admit, I'm in favor of that. The only time I would like to see rematches are for occasions like this, when you literally can't separate the 2 fighters. But whether it has to be next or what, I don't know. Who knows? They'll have to work out something with the IBF mandatory contender. They'll probably have to pay me a little step aside money. Because let's be honest, man, this fight is, the second fight will be bigger than the first one now. Yeah,
to be fair, the IBF, out of all the sanctioning bodies, they're the best out of a bad bunch for me. Do you know what I mean? The IBF. I mean, I don't really like any of the sanctioning bodies, but if I had to pick one, then I'd say I'd prefer the IBF because they do enforce their mandatories. Do you know, they're not like these other ones. So let's go to the comments here. Conrad Boxing has put, "What's up, Lowdown and Laurie? What's going on, bro? Good to have you here." DS has said here, Charlo's response post-fight was of someone who knew they got away with one. Francisco has said the thing about a rematch is Charlo can fight better than he showed. I agree with that. And he also says here, I don't think Castano can improve on his performance, but maybe I'm underestimating him again. Good point. Good question as well.
It is.
Do you think Charlo can be better, and do you think Castano can be better?
I think they both can be better. I think they'll both go away, and there'll be certain things they did in that fight that they could have done better. For example, Charlo, he, for some reason, totally neglected the body work. He also neglected the uppercut, which when you're a taller fighter and with a bigger reach, you would have thought he would have thrown a few uppercuts in there, especially when you consider that he was being crowded on the ropes at times, you know what I mean? Also, I thought he got backed up too much in that fight. You could hear Derek James in the corner clearly saying to Charlo, man, you got to back him up. And when he did back Castano up, Castano was much less effective. And if you're Castano, I would say maybe you need to start earlier in some of the rounds, because he applied good, intelligent pressure. But what I found with his workers is it's quite sporadic insofar as there were times where he was almost like he'd take the first minute, minute and a half, sometimes even 2 minutes off, and then he would press late. Now, like I said, that could be quite intelligent in terms of putting that thought in the judges or people's watching mind that you won the round by finishing quite strongly. However, if you're watching the fight closely, you will realize, man, that you can't always just score a fight to somebody that has a good 30, 35, 40 seconds. Although, you know, listen, sometimes he may land a couple of really hard shots that will swing it in his favor. But, you know, the general concept of not doing much for 2.5 minutes and then finishing late, you know, that's what might happen. But listen, man, I think if they fight again anytime soon, I think it's guaranteed fireworks, because I think the two stars mesh well.
Yeah. Let's see what happens, man. Very good fight, entertaining fight, man. And credit to both of them. Regardless of how you scored the fight, they don't actually draft up the judges' scorecards. They just come in to fight. So let's shout out both of the fighters, man. Respect to both, and hopefully they get it back on soon. You know, the light middleweight division is very strong. Do you know what I mean? You've got some top contenders in there. You've got two good champions, and it's an unheralded division, but it's very strong, man. And you know, shout out to everybody in that division. It's a very good one. Let's move on, though.
That fight is the fact that, sorry to interrupt, tell you what I liked about that fight so much was that, as well as it being a potential fight of the year in terms of the action, if you look at the actual skill sets in display, man, there was some real quality boxing going on there. You know what I mean? It wasn't just two guys locking horns in the middle of the ring and swinging punches and everyone say, oh, Mexican style or whatever style and stuff like that. You know what I mean? This wasn't a fight whereby there was just guys just unloading and with reckless abandon. This was quality boxing, man. You know what I mean? So that's why I really enjoyed it. And for me, it's up there already with one of the fights of the year. There's been several, but that I'm sure will be in the shake-up come the end of the year. What we're in now, July, so obviously there's lots more fights left till the end of the year. But that is one of the fights I definitely enjoyed. Top level skills by top level guys in a top level promotion. So yeah, man, shout out to them.
Conrad has said here the 154 division is underrated. It is, man. Let me share my screen quickly and show you what the rankings look like from your favorite publication, Laurie, The Ring. Let's get it up here. Because the 154 division is deep, but straight away I'm looking at this. This needs updating. This can't have been updated. Because you've got Jamel Charlo was the champ, fair enough. Jared Hurd, he should not be there. He shouldn't be there, not number one right now. Castano should be there. Then you've got Erislandy Lara, obviously Castano. Erickson Lubin had a fantastic win not too long ago. Julian J. Rock Williams, you got him on there. Tony Harrison, Tim Zhu, you know what I mean? Michael Soro, you've got Sebastian Fundora. And I don't know who this guy is, I'll be honest, Magomed Kabanov. But you've got other guys.
Liam Smith.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's who. Yeah, of course, yeah. I don't know much about him, if I'm honest, man. But
I saw him fight Liam Smith, and despite Liam Smith's protestations, man, I thought Kurbanov won the fight. Again, that was another fight where it was hard contested fight, but to me, Kurbanov was the clear winner. And when I heard Liam Smith and some of his guys got robbed. Like, robbery, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, you were competitive, but you never won that fight. You know, and this is what I'm saying about this so-called robbery. It's not a robbery. Think about the term robbery, what that means. Like, someone stole something from you or someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a steal on Saturday. It was a close fight. It could have gone either way. And like you said, it depends on what prism you're watching it through. Boxing is a very subjective sport. Even though you got those 4 rules of scoring, effective digression, ring generalship, punching quality, and, you know, the other one, which I, you know, temporarily forgotten. But, you know, those 4 tenets of scoring are there to help the judge. However, you know what I mean, what your eyes see and what you think is good action is what you're attracted to. Some people, for example, prefer fighters going forward, so they will always score a fight in favor of the fighter that's backing the other guy up. But sometimes, as we know in boxing, just because you're backing somebody up, it doesn't mean to say you're winning the fight, because you may not be landing the punches. You could be just following the guy around, or you could be backing the guy up but not throwing enough punches. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's all, you know what I mean? It's a real hodgepodge of things, man. And at the end of the day, you have to rely on the judges. Most of them, we like to believe, are right-minded and professional, but they're going to have slightly different views on how they see a fight. You know what I mean? So
Harvey has said here, Jared Hurd at #1. Yeah, that's that. It needs updating. That does. He lost to Luis Arias, so yeah, that's not going to be. He's not going to be #1.
Exactly.
But who knows with the Ring magazine? Who knows with the Ring?
Watch out for Sebastian Fundara, man. 6'5", 154 pounder. That's crazy. And he actually fights very aggressively for a tall guy. He's not a jab and move guy. He actually likes to get inside and mix it, and he throws a whole heap of punches. So he's going to be a hard night's work for anyone. Erickson has got on a renaissance mission. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's some quality guys at that weight, man. J-Rock, he lost to Rosario, but he's on the way back. So, yeah, man.
Got Danny Garcia coming up as well, man. Errol Spence talking about moving up eventually. So that division's full of killers, man. Diaz has said here, 154 is a division to swerve, full of monsters and high-risk fights, but it hasn't got the glamour, prestige, and paychecks of 147 and 168. He's bang on.
Yeah, he's bang on. 147 welterweight and 160 middleweight, they're seen as like 2 of the traditional marquee weights. So between that, you've got 154 light middleweight, and then going above middleweight, 168. If you notice, they're not really what you call sexy divisions, are they? You know what I mean? So doesn't mean to say you haven't got good fighters in those divisions. The only thing that surprised me about that 154 is that the Ring magazine didn't find a way to put Canelo's face in there. You know what I mean? So because he's boxed.
So why would he be there?
No, because they might determine that he could move up and down, which is what he tends to do, isn't it? But, you know what I mean? The Ring magazine will probably find a way of putting him #1 at that as well. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah. Let's move back to 147, actually. We just briefly mentioned it there, but we've got some significant news in that division. The WBO have ordered, it was overnight, purse bids to be arranged between Terence Crawford and Sean Porter. So that fight looks like it's going to be happening unless one of them pulls out. Well, if Crawford pulls out, he'll lose the belt. So it's really Sean Porter, and I think that he wants it too. So some positive news there, man. Hopefully we get to see those 2 fight. For me, what I will say with that particular fight is that I was more excited about that fight about a year ago. You know, I still think it's a good fight. I still like to see it. I think Crawford just needs to be active, full stop. But I don't know. I don't want to sound pessimistic. I don't want to be that person. You know, that sounds like I'm being a spoiled boxing fan. But it doesn't have the same ring to it as it did before, man. I think Crawford beat Sean Porter a lot easier than I did last year. Like, that's just my personal opinion.
That could be because at that time, Porter was coming off of that narrow loss against Errol Spence. So maybe his star was shining a bit brighter then. But first thing I want to say about this fight is that I'm not overly excited. You know why? Not because of the 2 fighters involved, because we've heard all this before. And this is a problem with boxing. I mean, these guys should have fought by now. You know what I mean? We was hearing that the deal was done and blah, blah, blah. And the next minute, you know, nothing happened. Then you got the two camps blaming each other for the fight not taking place. But in terms of the actual potential of the fight, yeah, I like that fight, man.
The difference is, though, the WBO have ordered this one, haven't they? They've ordered it. Was it ordered before?
Whoa, good. Because Terence Crawford needs to get back in the ring. He's my personal pound-for-pound #1, and I love watching him fight. But the problem he's having is that he's finding it very hard to make fights, and all the time he's getting a little bit older. And so he's only got a limited time frame, you would have thought, at that top level. So he needs to fight, man. You know what I mean? And this is a very good fight for him because, let's face it, man, Sean Porter will test him. But I think ultimately, man, Terence Crawford was far too skilled for Sean Porter. Sean Porter is a guy that tends to rely almost exclusively on his physicality. And for all the talk he likes to engage in about all the stuff that him and his dad do, I have to be honest and say, if you've seen one Sean Porter fight, you've seen them all, haven't you? In terms of his tactics, it's just to bull forward and try and impose his physicality and aggression on his opponent. Yeah. And sometimes it works. We saw it work to a degree against Eric Spence. We saw it work spectacularly against Paulie Malignaggi. We saw varying degrees of it working against Adrian Broner when he looked good. But then a lot of other times, man, he's got that swarming, aggressive style, which whilst it makes it difficult for opponents to fight him, it doesn't make him a very, how can I put it, viewer-friendly fighter, you know what I mean? And sometimes, again, scoring his fights can be difficult. Do you reward his aggression? Or, I mean, do you look more closely at some of the punches he throws? You know what I mean? So, but anyway, I would pick Crawford is a strong favourite to beat him. I really do.
What I will say is that with Sean Porter, how many times can you keep going to the well? Do you know what I mean? Like, he really puts it all in for his fights, man. We saw it against Keith Thurman. We saw it against Danny Garcia. We saw it against Errol Spence. We saw it against Kell Brook. You know, how many times can he keep digging that deep? I just think against Crawford, somebody who he's going to meet his match in terms of strength. For me, Crawford is probably as strong as anybody at welterweight. Let's not forget he's got that wrestling background as well. And I think he's one of the hardest punchers at welterweight too. So I could see Sean Porter running into something, man, a bit like Kell Brook did. And I think that Crawford will stop Porter. I do. It's a bit bold because Porter's very strong himself. He's been down before, but he's never been stopped. But I think that this could be the one where Crawford could do it, man. I do.
Yes, that's an interesting point you make there. I mean, you know, like you said, man, he's never been stopped. He's been dropped by Adrian Broner. He's been hurt a few times. Got dropped by Errol Spence as well.
Spence, yeah.
But yeah, he's never been stopped. He looks exceptionally strong. You've got to remember, listen, Sean Porter as an amateur was actually fighting at middleweight. You know what I mean? And he was an esteemed American footballer. I mean, not at professional level, but he played American football to a good level. So he's a big guy. So he's slimmed himself down. And he's been at welterweight for all this time. So you're right in a sense, maybe, you know what I mean? It's coming to that point where, man, where, you know what I mean, his punch resistance may be affected by all the boiling down in weight. And one thing I'd say about Terence Crawford, I'm not so sure if he's naturally powerful or if it's just a combination of him punching correctly through the target and the fact that he's a very accurate fighter. And I would also throw in, he's very mean-spirited. So he's one of them guys, man. And once he's got you going or once he's got you hurt, he's looking to get you out of there, you know what I mean? Which is something that, for example, last week, Jermell Charlo in the second round and especially in the 10th, he could have closed the show in the 10th if he'd have been a bit more accurate and a bit more, you know, how can I put it, a bit more spiteful. Terence Crawford, man, if he has a guy in that similar position, it's unlikely that they're going to make it out the end of the round. You know what I mean? Yeah. He punches from all angles and they're accurate. And he just knows how to finish guys. Yeah. That's one of his best attributes. So I have to say, him and Porter will be a very good fight.
I have to say, Crawford's probably one of my favorite fighters right now, man. I just love watching him. I love his attitude in the ring. We don't watch him enough, I should say that. But when he is in the ring, I just love the way how he fights. I love his attitude. He's got that spitefulness, like you were saying. Like he really Do you know what I mean? He just goes for it. And he's like Josh Taylor, isn't he? Like, they're both got that kind of character about them where if they get you going, man, there's going to be no, like, niceties about them, man. They're trying to take you out. And I just like fighters like that.
3 guys that spring to mind, and you've mentioned 2 of them. The other one's Tank Davis. He's another one. Once he's got you going, man, he's looking to decapitate you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And we saw that in his last fight against Barrios. Once he had Barrios on the run, once he knocked him down that first time, you knew that Barrios was not going to make it through to the 12 rounds. They've just got this innate way of knowing how to finish people and landing the punches needed to get the job done. So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the comments over here, man. We've got a few. Francisco has put here, hey, we've gone 3 episodes without Laurie expressing his well-funded disdain for Canelo. Cool.
Listen, it's not disdain, bro. It's not disdain. It's just that every now and again I feel, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel incumbent to remind people with the fact that Canelo gets treated differently to everybody else in boxing, and not just by the governing bodies, I might add, the commentators, the social media guys, the fans, everybody's like falling over Canelo to the point where it's like they can't see the wood from the trees. But hey,
listen, man, Canelo's going to be fighting Caleb Plant very soon. He's going to be fighting Caleb Plant, man. It's a good fight. Another one.
Caleb Plant is you need to be working on some power, man. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to outbox Canelo. It's as simple as that. You're not getting no decision, Caleb. So I hope you're chopping down trees, building up some arm strength, doing some explosive work in training, you know what I mean? And working on your power, bro. Because, you know what I mean? Even if you don't knock him out, you're going to have to knock him down or stagger him. You need some 10-8 rounds because you're not going to get no points decision over Canelo. And that's just facts. You know what I mean?
Harvey has put here, rest in peace, Caleb Plant. Yeah, so he's not giving him much of a shot. He's also put Crawford stops Porter in round 10, in his opinion. Interesting. Born Again Biker has said here, will Conor Benn win his next fight, or is it too easy? He's fighting, who's it? Adrian Granados, ain't he? Wait, I can't remember. That's that fight camp, isn't it? So, yeah, I think he'll beat Granados. Yeah. I think it'll be a good test for him. Good step up. One thing I will say about Conor Benn and his team is I think that they've moved him very well, you know, in terms of his level of as to who he's fighting, as well as his marketability as well. I think they're doing a very good job with Conor Benn. And I think that this is a good fight for him, an entertaining one. I think he can win it as well.
Yeah, Granados is a decent name. He's been in with the likes of Broner and people like that. And obviously, at this stage of his career, Granados, let's face it, he's a decent, tough fighter. He comes out of Chicago. He fights with that kind of Mexican tradition. Come forward type of thing, in your face. And he'll be looking for work. But I just see that Conor Benn, man, too young, too strong, too youthful. And he's improving all the time as well. So I fully expect Conor Benn to come through. Yeah.
Home comforts too. Maybe that will help as well.
Yeah, yeah. But to be honest, I think even if they fought in America, man, Conor Benn, listen, the energy that Conor Benn fights with, man, is like, you're not going to see that from too many welterweights around the world, if I'm being honest. That kind of energy and passion and speed and power intermixed that he fights with, man, is very, it's very effective. You know what I mean? And I like watching him, man. And he's improving. He's not just a bundle of energy. The guy's got skill as well. You know what I mean? And he's another good finisher, man. You know what I mean?
He is. Yeah.
When he hurts you, man, he tries to get you out of there. And he's accurate with his shots.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, man. I can't see. I think if he hurts Granados, he gets him out of there as well. He may not knock him out, but he might hit him so much that the referee might be forced to jump in and say, no mas. So I could see that happening around 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. Got more predictions here on Porter and Crawford. Let's say that fight does get made. But Francisco's put here, Porter is too strong to be dropped by Crawford. Porter is really like 20 pounds bigger than welter, and Crawford is a smaller welter. He's moved up several weights. Crawford will outbox him. Do you know where I heard something similar to this? Was when Crawford fought Kell Brook. These were the same sort of things people were saying when Crawford fought Brook. Brook's too strong. He's really a middleweight. Crawford's a smaller man. Even Brook was saying it. Brook was like, yeah, I'm the natural at this weight. You're coming up into my weight. Look what Crawford did to him, man. I think he could do it to Porter. Maybe, like, listen, I'm not saying that he does, but I think he could do it. I think he could do it, man.
Yeah, he could, although I must say I lean towards Crawford winning on points. I think he could drop him, but whether he'll stop him, I'm not so sure. But I definitely got Crawford winning because, like I said, Crawford is a lot more skilled than Sean Porter in every skill set you could imagine. Defense, jab, combination punching, you know what I mean? What you get with Porter is just a guy that tries to bully you. He comes in and he tries to bully you. He swarms you. There's not much science to what he does, despite what him and his dad like to say. They're always trying to blind you with all these terms and, oh, we're working on this, we're doing that. But listen, am I doing him a disservice? But I see the same Porter, the same Sean Porter. Go back to when he fought Kell Brook. It's the same thing he did there. And that was a very keenly contested fight. That was a real hard fight, tough fight. But again, you scored it to Kell Brook because he did the better work. And I know after the fight, again, Sean Porter and his dad were screaming robbery and Kell Brook held him and all that. But the reason why pretty much everyone thought that Kell Brook was a deserved winner is because he showed the better skill in there. He did the better work. It wasn't because he was stronger than Porter. It wasn't because he was backing him up throughout the fight and rocking his head back with all these blows. It's just that in the moments, his work was a lot better. And to me, I'm a bit disappointed with Sean Porter that he's not improved on his skill level over the years. Yeah. But I would say he's got a lot of heart. He's tough as they come, and he's ultra competitive, and he'll make Crawford work for it. That's no doubt. He'll make him work.
Well, let's talk about one fight that's happening this weekend, man. It definitely is going ahead, and that is Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut, returns to action after, you know, his win over Daniel Dubois. He'll be taking on Carlos Takam. Now, this was supposed to be the first fight of a very good night of boxing. You know, we were supposed to see that. Then we were supposed to see Fury and Wilder later on, as well as a good heavyweight undercard. However, we all know what happened there. But anyway, let's talk about Joe Joyce. He's fighting Carlos Takam. For me, I'm just a bit blah about this fight, man. Sorry, I sound very negative and today, but for this fight, man, I don't think it's going to be. I can't see any sort of an upset at all, man.
Go on, say. The Juggernaut's going to run over another victim.
He's going to roll over Takam, man. Sorry, he is. He's going to roll over Takam. Too athletic, too strong, too big. Carlos Takam, he's been there, do you know what I mean? But he got stopped by Chisora. Juggernaut's just going to roll over him, man. He is.
Takam, he's bounced back, hasn't he? He's won his last 4 fights since the Derek Chisora loss, which, let's face it, he was winning up until he got caught.
I don't want to disrespect him. I'm not disrespecting him, but I'm just saying that I just think that Joe Joyce is too big, too athletic, too strong. And I think that he'll run over Carlos Takam, man.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I do agree. I mean, with this fight, it's one of them. It's almost like, what round? Pick your round. Is it early or is it late? But we all know it's going to happen. So I'm trying not to disrespect Carlos Takam, who, let's face it, man, has been a good fighter, seasoned pro, good professional, tough man, fight anyone, anywhere. But I have to say, in 2021, at 40 years old, yes, he's coming off the back of 4 victories, but it has to be said they're a lot lower level in terms of quality than Joe Joyce. I just can't see this fight ending any other way apart from a resounding stoppage win for Joe Joyce. It may not be a knockout, like knocked out, but I could see him taking a lot of punishment and the referee just jumping between him and just doing that. A bit like what happened when he fought Joshua. Although when he fought Joshua, he was doing quite well.
That was a bit controversial, that stoppage there.
Yeah, yeah. I think the knock on Takam is that he's a good fighter, but once he steps up to a certain level, he's not been able to overcome that task, has he? That challenge.
Yeah.
And if he weren't doing it in his early to mid-30s, it's very difficult to see him doing it now that he's touched 40. You know what I mean? And people will say, yeah, but Joe Joyce is 35. But Joe Joyce, certainly in terms of his professional career, he's a
young 35.
He's a young 35, man. And let's face it, man, there's not been too many hard fights there, has there? He's not gone to life and death with anyone. I mean, Dubois was competitive for a while until he just completely wore him down. And Yeah, I think he's got something like 12 fights, 11 KOs, isn't it? So he's got a very good KO percentage. And he basically just batters guys. I like watching him, man. I really like Joe Joyce, man, because he's not the most, how can I put it? He's not the most aesthetic, is he? He can look clumsy and slow and laborious at times, man. But you know what I mean? He once he kicks into a certain gear, it's very hard to stop him, man. Very hard.
His resume here, 12 fights, 12 wins, 11 KOs, Joe Joyce. The only one that went decision was the one against Brian Jennings. I remember that. That wasn't a good fight to watch. I was there, actually. It was, but yeah, Daniel Dubois, just the German guy here, Brian Jennings, then he had fought Uslanov, Bermain Stavern. So, you know, it's not a bad resume at all. I remember when he beat Lenroy Thomas, actually, man. Won the Commonwealth, beat Lewison on his debut.
And you know who was in Lenroy Thomas's corner that night?
Who?
Who was in Lenroy Thomas's corner?
Who's in his corner again? Who was in his corner?
Kenny Porter, Sean Porter's dad.
Oh, yeah, it was, wasn't he? Yeah.
And he battered him. I think Lenroy Thomas was crying after that fight.
Yeah, I think he, what was that, Lewison?
Battered. And if you remember, I think Lenroy Thomas previously, the reason why he got the Joe Joyce fight was because he'd beaten one of our guys, hadn't he? I think he beat, who's the guy from Sheffield?
Dave Allen.
Dave Allen, yeah. He beat him. I think he beat him twice. So they thought, okay, put you in with Joe Joyce, see how that turns out. And he got absolutely wiped out. I actually felt sorry for him. Not just because of the fact that he's Jamaican, obviously we're of all Jamaican heritage, but yeah, man, he got cleaned out, man. Got battered. And Joe Joyce can do that to people, man. He's got power aligned with, you know the thing about that makes Joe Joyce quite unique, for such a big guy, his engine, man, is unbelievable. He just keeps coming, doesn't it?
Yeah. But do you know the thing about Joe Joyce, yeah? Let me just go to these comments quickly and I'll tell you one thing here. DS has said here, Joyce will jab his head off and get Takam out of there around 7-9. And Harvey has said Joyce beats him by a unanimous decision. You know the thing about Joe Joyce? I was watching him fight one time with Casual, and somebody was watching it, and this was before he fought Dubois, Joe Joyce. And he was not impressed with Joe Joyce at all. He was just like, how is this guy any good? He looks slow. He looks cumbersome. He just swings. He looks like he's easy to be hit. His punches don't look particularly hard. How is he winning all these fights? And I just said, look, man.
Tell that guy to get in there with him and spar him.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? In a way, that's a good thing, Daryl. That is a great thing. You know why? Because in boxing, it's like other sports. It's not one size fits all. You can have different guys doing different things, but they achieve the same aim. Bit like football. Sometimes you'll see a centre forward. He's not very skillful. He's not very quick. He looks a bit ungainly, a bit clumsy, but he gets goals, even if they're going off his backside or off his shoulder, or he's bullying man and getting his head on the end of it. It goes in. You look at the numbers, you think, right, how did that man score 30 goals this season? He doesn't look that skillful. He gets a job done, and that's what Joe Joyce does. I've seen it in cricket. You get guys who don't look that quick a bowler. They sort of run up to the wicket, and yet their power, the way, you know, I mean, the speed at which they deliver the ball and the amount of wickets they get, you think, right, he doesn't look like he's that good, but he is. Joe Joyce is the boxing version of that, insofar as he doesn't look great to what, if you had a little child in front of you and you were looking for someone to learn off, you would not get Joe Joyce as a prototype and say, yeah, he's what you follow. But he's effective, and I like that.
Very effective.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, he's physically very gifted in terms of his fitness levels. His cardio is amazing. He's strong. He hits hard, although it's not demonstrably hard. You don't look at a shot from him and go, wow. But he's got that kind of, it's that clubbing kind of power, isn't it?
Yeah. Heavy-handed, very heavy-handed.
Power that people think, right, I don't want to take too more of them. You know what I mean? So I don't mind that, man. You know what I mean?
No, I'm a big fan of Joe Joyce.
I didn't mind when Wilder was knocking man out either, cleaning them out, and people saying, oh, he's windmill, all he does is swing. Listen, he's winning fights. He's found a way. You got to respect that. So,
yeah.
You know?
IB here has put here, hope all is well. I'm only just jumping on, but did you guys see Simon Jordan absolutely destroy Maurizio Suleiman on TalkSport and make him say no mass. No, I didn't. I haven't seen that, but you're partial to a Simon Jordan.
No, I can't stand the guy for reasons I don't want to go into here. You know what I mean? I've got no time for Simon Jordan at all. I've heard him a couple of times on TalkSport talking about boxing. He don't know what the hell he's talking about. I mean, he was there saying how he predicted that Billy Joe Saunders was going to beat Canelo and all that type of stuff. Just chatting crap. Listen, he may well have destroyed Mauricio Suleiman on TalkSport. I mean, listen, Simon Jordan is a very experienced broadcaster. He's also, you know, let's face it, he's an intelligent man. So yeah, he's going to have his moments, but not for me.
I'm gonna watch that. You know,
none. I've got no respect for him, no time for him, and I don't care who knows about that. He's a bum. But yeah,
I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch that clip. I'm gonna watch that clip there.
Yeah, I try to stay away from any. As soon as I hear that guy's name mentioned, or if I turn on the radio and I hear him, I normally turn it off straight away. So I wouldn't be aware of that, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I'll check it out though. I'll probably check that out and after the show, just because I want to see how Suleiman gets his way out of that. You know what I mean?
You know, I've seen Suleiman get dissed and humbled enough times on social media wherever he's appeared on certain guys' channels, because all you've got to do is ask him a couple of straight up questions and he's got no answer to it. You know what I mean? Because it's such a dysfunctional organization that, you know what I mean, how can you really defend it? All you've got to do is put a few facts his way and get him to explain it, and he can't do it. There's another one. He's in the Canelo clutches, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah, he's another one. He's just a straight out Canelo sycophant. Sorry, guy's terrible for boxing, man. WBC. You know what? The way they've ruined that. I mean, I know his dad, God rest his soul, he was like the main figure of WBC back in the day. There were problems.
Jose Suleiman.
Jose, yeah. There were problems then when he was running, but he was seen as a fairly established and respected figure. Yeah, but this guy, man, oh God, some of the stuff that's gone on under his tenure is just actually unbelievable. So, yeah, I'm not surprised Simon Jordan put it on it, because it's quite easy to be honest, because the guy's such a corrupt guy. And that's the truth, man. The WBC is corrupt. Straight up.
Harvey said here, are either of you watching the Garcia fight tonight? You know what? I forgot he was even fighting. He's fighting that guy that Joe Joyce beat, actually, isn't it? With the German guy, I think.
What, Wallin?
No, not Wallin. Joe Joyce, yeah, who Joe Joyce beat. I think it was Joe Joyce beat. Yeah, it was. I didn't even forgot about that fight. So that just tells you how interested I was in it, Harvey, man.
Well, to be fair to Gassiev, he hasn't fought in a long while, and he's had injuries in it, so you're not going to take on a killer in your first fight back. So it kind of makes sense.
He's been pretty inactive over the last couple of years, man. He fought October last year, I think it was, and before that, he was inactive for a couple of years or so. So yeah, I think he needs to get going. I've got no issue with who he's fighting. Just it's good to have him back out at heavyweight as well. I mean,
with Gassiev, let's face it. As a cruiserweight, he was quite a formidable guy, wasn't he? Big punch, strong. But moving up to heavyweight, man, you're moving up where the guys are a lot bigger and a lot stronger. And I think he's going to struggle to make a real impression on the top guys anyway. But on his day, I'm sure he'll be a test for anybody, because he's strong and he's experienced and he's a good fighter. I mean, I think he's only lost to the likes of USYK, which I'm sure we're going to talk about soon. But yeah, man. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how he goes. I'm sure he has got a future. It's who they match him with ultimately.
Let's talk about USYK now, because that fight was actually confirmed this week. We briefly spoke on it last week, and that fight is now official. Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk, September in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and very positive, man. I'm very happy that this was confirmed. I like the fight. You know what I mean? AJ going out there, he's fighting another tough opponent in Alexander Usyk, undefeated. We all know how good he is, former undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. And it's another solid test for Anthony Joshua, man, and one that if he's not careful, he could lose it. And you know what? There are people actually picking him to lose anyway. People that are big fans of AJ were messaging me that week saying, yo, man, I'm really worried about this fight, man. I think Usyk's going to do him. So it's one of those fights where you either go with AJ, with his size and his power, or you go for Usyk and his skills. And I'm not saying that AJ don't have the skills, but Usyk is looked at here as the guy who could pose a threat with his skills. And, you know, it's a very intriguing fight, this one. It is very intriguing. You've got some people that think that AJ will destroy him. You've got others that think Usyk is going to bamboozle him. And I'm looking forward to it because I want to see, we will see Usyk really tested at heavyweight here. I think he was tested against Chisora, but in terms of feeling a full-blown punch from, you know, a huge heavyweight giant, you're going to get that here. So very intriguing. I'm looking forward to this.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. And you made a very accurate assessment there. You could make a case for either guy winning. I do admit that. But although I'm going to come down in favor of AJ, and not just because I like him, I declare an interest. I'm a big fan of his. But I do see him winning this fight. And the reasons for that is you've said about the size and the strength and stuff like that. He's got the edge in punching power, I would imagine. But one thing I would say about Usyk, for all we laud him about his skills and all the rest of it, is he's very hittable. I've noticed that in his fights. He can be touched.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, Tony Bailey was touching him up before he unraveled. Gassiev, who we spoke about earlier, he was touching up Usyk at times. You go back to this fight, you know what I mean, life and death fights. Yeah, man, so he can be hit. And I just think that if Joshua's touching you up like that, man, it's going to be a lot different. And I just think that if Joshua fights a clever fight, a smart fight, he's going to have to have a combination of tactics in this fight. At times he's going to press, and at times he's going to work behind the jab. But he's going to have to bring it to Usyk. He can't allow Usyk to settle into a rhythm. So, yeah, the jab is going to be important. He's going to have the longer reach. He's got to establish his jab, but at times he's going to have to touch into the body and physically impose himself upon Usyk in a bit like the way that Derek Chisora did. Derek Chisora had a lot of success with Usyk because at times you could see he was literally pushing Usyk around, pushing him back, and that's what Joshua's going to do. So he's going to have to employ both strategies. But I do think AJ, as he's got older and he's maturing, I do think he's using his brain a bit more and he's fighting with a bit more ring IQ and ring generalship. And I think that this is a good fight for him, man. A fight in which he can display his skills and get the win. He's going to have to dig deep at times because, you know, Usyk's hella tough and got a lot of heart and he will come to win. So it's going to be a hard fight for Joshua. But I do fancy him, man. Yeah. And I also have to say that Usyk's 2 heavyweight fights so far have not over-impressed me. Now, you don't want to read too much into that because at the end of the day, Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora are not Anthony Joshua in terms of how they are, in terms of stature and the style and the importance of the fight. This is on another level. But I have to say that I wasn't overly impressed with him as a heavyweight. You know what I mean? Not so far. So Joshua will be looking at that fight and thinking it's definitely a fight I can win. And that's why he's favourite. He's at home. Not to say that Usyk will be intimidated by fighting away from home. I mean, he's fought in London before when he won the Olympic gold medal, for example. But I do feel that AJ has those slight edges, size, strength, reach, age, the fact that he's at home. And I just think he will put on a good show and he will get the win. It might even be the most impressive win of his career so far. I think he's in the mood to do that.
WM has put here, yes, Daryl and Laurie, always great to tune into the pod. Hope you are both well. Hope you're well as well, man. Good to have you here, WM. He said here, AJ is going to absolutely sleep Usyk. I really believe that AJ will want to make that real statement. Harvey has said here, Joshua versus Usyk is a 60-40 fight, in my opinion. I see Joshua stopping in round 10, but Usyk is no walkover. On social media, I'm seeing more people pick Usyk over AJ, surprisingly. WM has also said here, Usyk will know exactly what time it is when AJ starts to land. AJ's boxing ability is underrated. If a donkey in Chisora can land clean, AJ will do well. Listen, my
That's
opinion.
harsh on Derek to call him a donkey, man. He did do some good work in that fight.
My opinion on this fight, is I think Usyk's going to pose problems for AJ earlier on. I think it might take him a few rounds to figure him out, but I think that AJ will get the job done somehow, whether it's a late stoppage or whether it's a points win. I can't remember really seeing Usyk rock that badly. He's been touched before, but this is a whole different ballgame against somebody as big and strong as AJ. You know what I mean? However many fans in that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium going to be screaming for AJ. I don't think that will put Usyk off. He's used to being the away fighter, but let's be real, man. Even if this does go to the cards, Usyk's going to have to really outbox him, because we saw against Vladimir Klitschko when AJ fought him, a lot of people at the time of the stoppage when it went to the cards, a lot of people thought Klitschko was winning, but at the scorecards,
I didn't.
Well, you didn't think Klitschko. A lot of people thought Klitschko was winning that fight.
No.
Before that 10th round or whatever, or the 10th round it was, did you not have Klitschko up in that fight?
No, I don't think I did. No, I don't think I did. No.
A lot of people I know did.
I think it was one of those that Klitschko was doing better than previously people thought he would. So all of a sudden, people start awarding man rounds based on that. You get that a lot, you know what I mean? You do get that. I think some people, they're not watching the fight so much. They're watching ebb and flow. So if they're seeing like, okay, he dropped Joshua and stuff like that, people think, "Raw, man, Klitschko's looking really good in his fight." Then all of a sudden they think, "Yeah, I think he was winning." No, I don't think so.
I think he was giving AJ a lot of trouble, man. AJ had to come back into that. He had to find his second wind.
He was hurt, but I don't think he was losing on points.
He was hurt. He had to find his second wind.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean to say he was losing on points. He was hurt badly, and he recovered.
But anyway, my point, what I'm trying to say is that Usyk is going to have to really dominate AJ to get that win on the cards. Because let's be honest, man, the judges are swayed, and AJ's the home fighter. Usyk's going to have to really outbox him to win that. Stop him is another thing, but to outbox AJ, yeah, he can do it. But to do it over 12 convincingly enough for all three judges to give it to you, that's another thing.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, man, AJ can box himself. I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, you know, he's only shown it that one time, and it was against a fat 300-pound, what's the guy, Andy Ruiz, who was undermotivated and out of shape," which is true. But then if you look at the Josie Parker fight, where AJ won that comfortably against a guy, Josie Parker, who was meant to be a good boxer, solid punch, good athleticism, and AJ got the better of him in terms of boxing. So AJ can box, man. You don't win an Olympic gold medal if you can't box, man. You know what I mean? You can box. Can he box as well as Usyk? Probably not. But then, like I said, he has the size, strength, and the power advantages to go with it, and the home advantage. So given all those aspects, and let's face it, Usyk has had the harder career in terms of he's had quite a few hard fights. AJ had a few hard fights, don't get me wrong, but I think Usyk has had harder tests. So yeah, man, it's a great matchup, and I definitely do expect Usyk to give him work, to give him problems, but I also fully expect AJ to come through, and I think he'll be extra motivated. He's not been in the ring for a while. He got messed around by Tyson Fury, and yeah, I know he'll be anxious to get out there and give a good account of himself, and I think he will.
Francisco has put here, great match. AJ and Usyk are excellent boxers, but the size difference is too much for Usyk. AJ wins by KO, but Usyk is a live underdog because of his skills and because AJ has a questionable chin. WM has said here, my donkey comment is duly retracted. I meant journeyman gatekeeper. And Harvey said here, Joshua will lose the first 5 or 6 rounds. So let's see.
Well, you say that, but Usyk's a notoriously slow starter. That's the other thing about him that a lot of people don't seem to always acknowledge. If you look at his fights, he starts slowly. I mean, look at the Bellew fight. Look at the Chisora fight. He didn't have the best of starts in those fights. He kind of takes time to warm up, and then he's good going down the stretch. I think the way his cardio is, he's just probably got a lot of what we call slow twitch fibers, where, you know what I mean, some of the other guys like Wilder, for example, is a very fast twitch guy. Tyson Fury, again, fast twitch guy. AJ is a predominantly fast twitch guy, very explosive and quick and stuff like that. whereas Usyk is more, you know what I mean, he's more built for stamina and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Conrad has said here, does Ruiz have big one-punch power, or did he break AJ down over time? Well, with that particular fight there, he caught AJ with a perfectly timed counter, which he never recovered from, and that was pretty much it. He never recovered from that shot. I don't think Ruiz has huge one-punch knockout power. I think he just timed him perfectly, and he never recovered from it.
No, Ruiz hasn't got huge one-punch power, but he is one of the better punchers in the division. Likewise is Anthony Joshua. I mean, that's why, if you remember in that fight, AJ dropped him heavily with a left hook, man. And up until that point, Andy Ruiz had never been dropped before, which is why when he got dropped and hurt by Chris Arreola, a lot of people were surprised, because previously he's had a really good chin. So that shows you Anthony Joshua is definitely a big puncher at this division, you know what I mean? So yeah, listen, man, that fight with Usyk is going to be a real intriguing fight. It might not be the most exciting fight. It may take time to catch fire, but I'm sure it's going to catch fire at some point.
Conrad has said here, I wonder if the same will happen with Usyk. Maybe he's talking about him timing AJ. He could do it. But the one thing about Usyk, like I said, man, is Usyk can be touched. Like you said as well, he can be hit, man. He's not like Pernell Whitaker, man. As skilled as Usyk is, he can be touched. So it's going to be very interesting. If he can take what AJ has to give, then that will make it even more interesting. Because he does have good stamina, like Conrad said.
Usyk's a southpaw, so he'll be quite tricky in that respect. But I've heard AJ say before that he fights against southpaws quite well. He does a lot of sparring with southpaws too. So yeah, man, listen, man, this is it's got all the portents of a very good fight, and I can't wait, man. It's about time we saw some of the heavyweight boys at the top echelon of the sport back in action. I mean, these fights keep getting cancelled and postponed and all the rest of it. So it'd be good to see two guys lock horns, man, and may the best man win. I think it will be AJ, but you can't rule Usyk out completely. And like you, I've heard quite a few people in the trade say that they fancy Usyk to beat him. So we'll see.
One thing I don't want to see Usyk do is put on too much weight. I saw a picture of him the other day, and it looks like that he's bulking up. Now, I think if he keeps doing that, it will take away from his original strength, because you're not going to be as strong as AJ. Do you know what I mean? So you may as well work to your strengths, and your strengths in this fight will be the slippery, fighter, makes it awkward, giving them angles and throwing combinations and then moving away and whatnot. If you put on more size, then it's going to be harder for you to do that, surely. But listen, I'm not in the game in terms like that. So, he's trained by some very good people, Alexander Usyk. He's gone all the way in his career in terms as an amateur and pro. So I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But just my opinion on it, I wouldn't want to see him bulk up too much against AJ. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. Although I think his purpose for putting on weight, which I would imagine is going to be muscle and not flam like it was with Andy Ruiz, but it's twofold. One, I think it's scientifically proven. If you've got more weight on you, yeah, it can work in your favor in terms of absorbing a punch. It doesn't mean to say you stick your chin out there and you can't get knocked out. But in terms of being able to absorb punishment, it can help you in that regard. And secondly, they might want to have him put on a bit more muscle, make him a bit more stronger, so that AJ can't physically throw him around. Because I think that's one of the things that the Wilder detractors always say, that if you look at Wilder's legs, they're very skinny. He's not a big heavyweight. So if you get a big guy in there, like what Tyson Fury was able to do, especially in the second fight, was pushing back because he doesn't have that natural heavyweight strength. So I can understand them bulking him up a little. But yeah, you're right. If you go too far over to the point where it starts to affect his mobility too much, then it's not going to work. Also, as you will know, you go to the gym a lot, the heavier you are, the more it's likely to affect your cardio. So one of the advantages that Usyk has is over Joshua, I think, is his cardio. So if you bulk up to the point where that's no longer effective in your favor, then you're doing yourself a disservice. But I think first and foremost, it's to, like I said, help him absorb the blows that he's going to receive. And secondly, to prevent Joshua from physically manhandling. So I think that's why they're doing that.
Harvey said, the thing that worries me the most is Usyk's work rate and mental pressure that he puts on you in the ring. We know that his good friend Vasyl Lomachenko is very good at that. So the feints and the pressure with the footwork, we've seen it. We've seen Usyk do it as well. The pressure is what got to Tony Bellew in that fight. You saw Bellew literally just fade away as the rounds went on. And that was because Usyk was just putting on tremendous pressure on Bellew that night. He was making him work. And not only was he making him work, he was making him think throughout the fight, you know what I mean? And that just drained him and made him tired. And the knockout was, listen, it was a great shot from Usyk, but Bellew was exhausted as well. And
But
can Usyk do that to AJ? Can he do that to AJ?
You got to remember in that fight with Bellew and Usyk, the roles were reversed in terms of size and strength. When you saw them in the ring, Usyk was clearly the bigger man, the stronger man, and he was pushing Bellew back. So Tony Bellew was having to do his work from distance. And once Usyk started to close the distance down, like you said, using the feints and the pressure with his footwork, which is exceptional, then he was able to get the job done. On that, you were talking about Vasyl Lomachenko being a good friend, which of course he is. I'm hearing that Vasyl Lomachenko's dad will be training Usyk for this fight.
Yeah,
so some of the strategies that Lomachenko likes to deploy, I'm sure Usyk will be using in this fight. So
it's a very good fight, man. Very, very. I'm looking forward to this fight right here. Very intriguing.
Very intriguing. And I think this fight, right? I'm going to say something now that I'm sure a lot of your viewers might disagree with. But I think potentially this fight could be harder for him than the Tyson Fury fight. Because I fancied AJ strongly in that Tyson Fury fight, man. I really did. I just think that he would have had Tyson Fury's number. I know a lot of people will look at it the reverse, but Tyson Fury's 6'9". Yes, he does have good footwork and that, but I just think that Usyk will probably pose him more problems in terms of the southpaw and the skill level. I mean, Tyson Fury as well, he likes to engage as well. So it's not like he's going to be flitting around the ring for 12 rounds. But anyway, let's get this one out of the way first. I think this is going to be a real hard task for AJ. Let's see if he can come through it.
What's going on with your boy Fury right now, man? What's the latest with him?
I want to correct you. Tyson Fury is not my boy. Definitely not, man. As I said, he's one of the fighters around today that I have to say that his character is not something that I'm endeared to, although I respect his abilities in the ring. Let's leave it like that. But as a man and some of the stuff he gets up to, nah, it's not for me. Nothing whatsoever. But I do recognize it. Listen, man, at the end of the day, it's boxing. And he is a good fighter, no doubt about it. I have to say, him pulling out of this fight with this whole COVID thing is extremely dubious to me, as it is, I'm sure, to a lot of people. I'm not saying he didn't get it. I'm not saying that people around him didn't get it. I'm just saying that I'm just going to leave it like that, man. I just find it dubious when I see some of the other stuff that's going on, you know what I mean? And yeah, but at least they announced the date for the rematch now in October.
October the 8th, 9th, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to put the other stuff past us and look forward to the October date. I still like the fight. I still think it's going to be a great fight. And in fact, I'm still leaning towards Wilder.
What, you think Wilder? You actually picking Wilder?
I was picking Wilder before, and I'm picking Wilder even more now because
Are you picking Wilder? Because you think he'll win, or is it because you want him to win?
I have to say there's a lot of that in there as well. I'd like to see Wilder win. Because like I said, with Fury, I've just become tired of all the antics and all the stuff that goes on alongside him. I'm tired of the dad and the rest of the family chirping in and chatting all kinds of bull. I'm just sick of it, man. You know what I mean? I'm sick of it. But like I said, I respect Tyson Fury as a fighter. So it could be, you know what? I'll give you that. It could be because I want Wilder to win. Maybe I'm allowing that to affect my judgment. But I just think that if you want my honest to God truth, I just think, because we know now that Tyson Fury said he didn't have COVID, and I'm thinking that the pullout could be because he didn't think he was ready. and he's trying to buy time. That's my personal opinion. You know what I mean? And I'm just basing that on the stuff I've read and the stuff I've seen. No one really knows. I guess you have to take the man at his word, but I'm dubious, man. I am. And then, like I said, and you know yourself, there's been a lot of stories coming out of the camp, and I think they're legit about him getting dropped in sparring, getting beaten up. And I think that he wasn't ready, either physically or mentally. Because if you remember, even at the time when he went into camp, a lot of people were saying, oh, you're going into camp late for a fight that's in July, the 24th. He went into camp less than 2 months before the fight. And even then, we saw him frolicking around at different events and doing all the social stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, really, you should be hard at it in the gym. And then you see footage of Wilder looking good, albeit we know it's not in a true fight setting. But he seems, if nothing else, to be fully focused on the fight. And that impressed me. And as I always say in boxing, man, you don't have to be this all singing and all dancing skillful guy. You know what I mean? If you've got the punching power and you've got the will and the determination and the focus and the energy, you can upset the odds. So I was leaning slightly towards Wilder, even though I recognize that Fury is actually the better boxer stroke fighter.
I still favour Fury, I have to say, man. Even though the guy gets on my nerves, I still favour Fury to beat him. If I'm just being honest, I do. I just think that even in the first fight for me, Fury did more than enough to win that. I thought he won that fight. He didn't get the decision. The second fight, he won comprehensively. The third fight, I think what will defeat him is if he is not fully at it. And I don't trust him one bit. So he might not be fully at it. So it's interesting because I don't know where his head's at right now. But it seems he could be a bit fragile in that area at times. But yeah, for me, if he's with it, then I have to pick Fury. I have to pick him.
Well, listen, man. I'm not mad at anything you say there. You know what I mean. You know, a lot of people would agree 100% with what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, based on what I've seen, I don't think, for whatever reason, we don't know. Tyson Fury is a real maverick man. No one truly knows what's going on in his head. I don't even think he knows half the time. He'll literally say one thing today and something completely different the next. I mean, case in point, last week we was hearing that he might retire. Another day I was reading that he's supposedly suffering mental issues again. Now, listen, I don't know if these things are true, but this is the sort of stuff that surrounds Tyson Fury. You know, I mean, there's no stability there, so you don't know what you're getting from one day to the next. And me being the type of person I am, I just like to judge things on how I see it. So he could very well come out in October and put on a boxing masterclass and really reduce Deontay Wilder to a quivering wreck. I don't know, man. It could happen. But like I said, based on what I've seen and the energy of the two guys, I'm giving Wilder a real shot of knocking him out. I don't think Wilder's going to beat him on points. I think Wilder's going to knock him out, or if he was going to win on points, it'd have to be something where like he drops through about 3 or 4 times. But he's capable of dropping him, Fury. We've seen it. Like, you know what I mean? We've seen it. He knocked him out. He never got the nod from the referee on that day. Some people would argue, myself included. But we do know that Wilder possesses the power to put him on his backside.
Harvey said here, if Fury is not fully focused or at 100%, I'd give Wilder a decent chance. Conrad has said here, do you really think Fury and Wilder 3 will actually happen? Who knows?
Who knows? Like I said, you don't know what to expect from this guy.
Yeah. And that's partly why I've just had enough of the guy, to be honest. It's partly why I'm just sick of it. Sick of the whole show, man.
I am as well.
Tyson
Fury, sorry to interrupt. Tyson Fury has spent a career of manipulating people. That's what I've come to realize about Tyson Fury, is that he will give you what he wants at any particular moment in time. And over the years, because I've seen how he's evolved, I've just got sick of it. Now, some people will say whatever they want to say about that. You say you should be backing the Brit, this, that. But I just can't back Tyson Fury because I've just got fed up with the antics.
Yeah, same.
You know what I mean? So you saw him Listen, Klitschko did it with AJ. Now he's done it with Wilder. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? We've had enough now. We're boxing fans. We want to see the best fight the best, and that's it.
WBC should strip Fury and give us Wilder versus White for the vacant belt. If Fury don't fight Wilder this time in October, then yeah, they should. If he finds a way to come out of that fight, then strip him. Strip him.
But this WBC we're talking about, man. Ask Dillian White what he thinks about the WBC. You know what I mean? He'll tell you.
Well, there are other this is the thing. There are other sanctioning bodies out there, aren't there? It's just like Dillian White really wants that WBC belt, doesn't he? But listen, it's his journey, isn't it? It's his journey. You know, he's got this far. I suppose he wants to see it through.
Dillian's entitled to feel hard done by. So I do feel sorry for him, man, because the way he's been treated by that organization is bordering on scandalous. Which is probably what Simon Jordan was alluding to.
I'm gonna check that out, actually. I'm gonna check that out after the show. But listen, before I go away, to say, going back to Fury, I got invited to an event, you know, and John Fury, he's going to be up in not far away from where we are. So someone asked us if we want to go. So do you want to go?
You go, mate. Yeah, enjoy. Not for me, mate. People are actually paying money to listen to this guy come with his "I'm the hardest man in Britain" tales. Ah, please do me a favor, man. You know what I mean? Grow up, John Fury, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You're trying to live vicariously through your son. Let him do the fighting. If I remember rightly, John Fury had a boxing career. It didn't turn out too good, did it? You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden you're there talking, threatening people. I'll do this. No man can do. Ah, please stop it, bro. It's embarrassing.
The John Fury tour, man. The John Fury tour. Got invited to it. We can go if we want to.
Tour. It's joke business, bro. Joke things.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I'm going to wrap it up for this week anyway, man. Another very good show. And just before I go here, Harvey's put here, I would pay money to see Laurie go and Daryl film it. That would be hilarious. Listen, if we can make it happen if you want to. I don't think Laurie will be up for it, though.
Get somebody else. Get Harvey to go, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Harvey, you come down, man. And then we'll film you there.
I've got absolutely no interest in listening to John Fury. To say I wouldn't cross the road to hear him speak is an absolute understatement, man. You know what I mean? I'd run in the other direction. I've got no time for the man. Chat shit. You know what I mean? And pretty much 100% of the time as well. So not for me, mate. Not for me at all.
Not for me either, because I told him no, I'm not interested in going. But listen, man, we're going to wrap it up for this week. Another great show. And, you know, want to thank everybody for joining. As always, don't forget, hit the like button on the way out, man. Make sure you do that. It doesn't cost anything. Feel free to hit that like button. Share the video. Let your people know that we've got this podcast going on, man. If you know anybody that likes boxing and you might think that they'd want to engage in some good conversations, bring them through, man. We're happy to close out and speak to them. So bring them through, man. But big up everybody as always. Harvey, Conrad, WM, DS, all of you guys, man. Francisco, thank you all for coming through. And Laurie, I'm going to let you close it out.
Yeah, man. Want to echo a lot of those sentiments. Thanks for everybody for tapping in. Truly appreciate their support. Keep watching, like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you next week on the next one.
See you then, guys. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we'll be back next week.